Now, before we get to one of the first interviews, I want to talk about something that's very close to my heart. Kind of, sort of, doesn't have anything to do with sports, but I've wanted to talk about this for a long time. April 29th marks the year anniversary of the No Fans game in Baltimore. As you remember, there was the Baltimore riots when Freddie Gray died due to police brutality, police injuries, whatever you want to call it. Lots of, animosity happened, and due to that, there was a lot of violent behavior. April 29th, the No Sound game is probably regarded to a lot of sports fans and a lot of people as when the uprisings and the protests seemingly started to cool down. And a lot of people credit Buck Showalter and his words for that. Guys, do we have the Buck Showalter quote? Do we have the audio for it? All right, thank you. Let's run it.
Well, I'm a resident from here. I grew up in like the neighborhoods that everything is happening. Mm-hmm. Just what advice would you give to the young black males in the city? Because you're well respected in that area.
Well, I talk to a lot of times. You hear people try to weigh in on things that they really don't know anything about. I tell guys all the time when they talk about, I've never been black, okay? So I don't know. I can't put myself there. I've never been, faced the challenges that they face, okay? So I understand the emotion, but I don't, I can't. It's a pet peeve of mine when somebody says, well, I know what they're feeling. Why don't they do this? Why doesn't somebody do that? You have never been black, okay? So just slow down a little bit. But, I try not to get involved in something that I don't know about. But I do know that it's something that is very passionate, something that I am with my upbringing, that it bothers me and it bothers everybody else. But, I understand, we have made quite a statement as a city, some good, some bad. But now let's get on with taking the statements we've made and creating it positive. I want to be a, we talk to players, I want to be a rallying force for our city, and it doesn't mean necessarily playing good baseball. It just means, everything we can do to, there's some things I don't want to be normal. You know what I mean? I don't. I want us to learn from some stuff that's going on both sides of it. And none of us, I could talk about it for hours, but, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, so some powerful stuff said by Buck Showalter. But I'm focused on the question that Buck was asked. For people who aren't familiar with Fan Eye Sports, or for new listeners to the podcast, that voice is actually very familiar to people who listen to the show very often, or are very familiar with Fan Eye Sports. That is, in fact, CEO of Fan Eye Sports, Kendall Hilton. He asked Buck the question. Buck answered it in the way he did, and, the Southern twang, and, it really is credited to a lot of people for a lot of the reason why the riots cooled down. Not necessarily stopped it, but cooled down. Because I think a lot of times people just want to be sympathized with. And Buck's sympathy, I think, resonated with a lot of people. And I think because of that, Buck is really looked at as one of the Baltimore native heroes. I truly believe that it was a reason why a lot of the riots were cooling, because it started to mark the beginning of a new approach to this whole police brutality. Instead of this, one side versus another, at least for Baltimore, one side versus another, it was how do we work towards stopping this kind of injustice. So Buck gets that credit. Buck, it looks like a hero. Buck looks like a national treasure, or at least a state treasure for Baltimore. My friend Kendall, who is my friend, not just my boss, but my friend, who asked that question, how does he get repaid? Does he get season coverage? Does he get season permission to cover the Baltimore Orioles, despite the fact that he kind of sort of had a hand in making Baltimore look really good and making Buck Showalter look really good? No. Does he get maybe single game coverage and he gets to pick and choose which games he gets to go to? No. How Kendall got rewarded was because of a technicality where he was not supposed to actually ask questions at the press conference. He has been banned ever since. So even though Kendall Hilton got all this positive press, and even though Buck Showalter is kind of credited and looked at in a positive light during this tumultuous time in Baltimore, Kendall gets repaid by being banned. And for the record, he didn't ask me to speak. I'm speaking on my own. I've been wanting to speak on my own for a long time. I thought it was very fitting that April 29th would be the day, but we have always had a busy show or a busy schedule, and it slips my mind. Because of all these issues, I feel like I should say something, and I have a bone to pick with the Baltimore Orioles public relations. I'm sure they're all nice people. I'm sure they're doing their jobs. But that question and answer gets revamped, makes Buck Showalter look so good. Lots of people credit that as probably one of the main reasons why the Baltimore riots started to cool down a little bit during that time, during that period. A lot of people actually look at Buck Showalter as a hero and look at his words as a way to approach this issue. And Buck Showalter looks good and yada, 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 but what about the guy who asked that question? Doesn't he deserve a little bit of respect? Doesn't he deserve, at the very least, not banning from the games? He should be treated, in my opinion, Kendall Hilton should be treated at least half as good as Buck Showalter. Because if not for Kendall Hilton, Buck Showalter doesn't say those things that come off so great. And to be honest, I'm angry for Kendall because the way the Baltimore Orioles PR office handled the whole situation and still continue to handle the situation is terrible. And so I'm not yelling. I'm not going on a rant. This isn't going to be a one-sided berating. But you hear those words and you hear the question and the answer and the follow-up from all of that was so positive. You'd think that Kendall, for initiating that positivity, and since then has been on numerous articles, gets numerous emails. We were just talking about the other day, a guy emailed Kendall explaining how happy he was to read an article based on that whole story and how much it makes us want to get up in the morning, to keep continuing to do Fan Eye Sports, keep continuing to create this small little thing and make it grow. And from all of that, Kendall Hilton gets repaid with a banning from Baltimore Oriole games. That's just not fair. In my humble opinion, I think that the Baltimore Orioles public relations staff should probably be ashamed of themselves for that. Now, that's just me speaking. That's not the opinions of Fan Eye Sports. That's just me. And if the Baltimore Orioles staff want to berate Fan Eye Sports, they should come talk to me first. Michael Asiffo. No one else. But I personally am upset with the Baltimore Orioles staff. And it's just straight up, I have a bone to pick with you guys. And if that's how you guys are going to treat a guy who initiated so much positivity for you guys, then you should be ashamed of yourself. For everyone who continues this ban, it's just straight up, it's a farce. It's a travesty.